Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Lost and Found with Frankie. And today I actually have a returning guest on, Jenny. You might have seen her on when she spoke about being a Reiki healer, but today we have her on as she speaks about being a medium, someone who connects with spirits and your loved ones that have passed on. We speak a lot. There's lots to unpack from this episode, but some of the main things, we just uncover the positivity of being a medium and potentially how the skepticism of it doesn't portray it in the right way in the world that we live in. And just about being open to allowing the energies in your life and being able to connect with your loved one in a positive, happy, joyous, and peaceful way, and how it can just bring you a lot of comfort. So thank you for being here with me. I hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to Lost and Found with Frankie, a podcast for young adults and teens who are just trying to figure out who they are whilst dealing with one of life's most devastating experiences, grief. I'm Frankie, and 10 years ago, when I was 13 years old, I lost my eldest brother, Matt. Like you're probably feeling now, I felt lost, alone, angry, and completely overwhelmed with sadness, and was just craving a space where I could go and feel comforted and understood. So this podcast is my way of creating that space for you, whilst opening up the taboo topic of grief, which so many of us experience. So if you're feeling lost on your journey with grief, hi, and welcome to this safe space. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You are not alone, and I hope that this podcast brings whatever it is that you're seeking on your journey. So let's get into it. Welcome back, everyone. And actually, we're welcoming back a guest we've had on before, lovely Jenny. She is back to share more of the breadth of her knowledge, wisdom, teachings, and just brain in general, brain and heart, to share some more of what she does. And I'll let Jenny describe properly because I will probably get it wrong. But Jenny is a medium, which you connect with spirits, you connect with the other side. That's lots of different ways that people would describe it, explain it, define it. And I just thought, in life, I'm always someone that's like, especially with this podcast, I'd rather bring information forward and just let people learn more. Like, that's always such a positive thing, in my opinion. And we've spoken about this a bit before. We were like, do we do the episode? And I just think, yeah, we're going to do it. Because I actually think it's becoming a lot more, the world's becoming a lot more open-minded. And I think when you grieve and you lose someone, lots of people crave connection and connection to the person that they've lost. So I think for me personally, this personally has been a bit of a no-brainer and something that I enjoy, I find comfort in. So we're going to do it. And it's going to be so exciting. And I'm so excited to learn more myself, like personally, whilst we share it with everyone else. So anyway, long intro. Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Back again.
Here we go, chatting away when no one can stop us.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly, us combined. Hilarious. Okay, so I guess I would with Reiki, started with what is Reiki, but actually we'll get on to the specifics of mediumship and being a medium, and there's different types of being a medium. But I actually wanted to ask, because I think a really common question people would want to know is how you find out you're a medium, how that comes to you, and whether you have to like accept it, and what's that experience like? Because I think we'll get on to common misconceptions and things, but I think in like the society we live in with lots of the movies and horror films that we have, can be quite negatively viewed. So I guess, just like wondering like how you started this journey and how it came to you.
Yeah.
In essence. It might be a long story and feel free to shorten it.
Yeah, I will. Because you know how we go on. So basically, we are all psychic.
Okay. Good
and
start.
let's start from there. We are all psychic, but we choose to shut that down, or we choose not to tap into that side of ourselves. When we're little, 0 to 7, we have imaginary friends and things. And actually, often they are spirits that we're actually talking to and playing with. Okay. And then as we go into that kind of logical side of schooling, we tend to shut down that creative side to our brain. And you tend to find that the people who are far more artsy are the ones that can tap in to their psychic ability again very easily.
Okay.
But most of us block it. So
Okay.
we can all be psychic and we
Right.
can train ourselves back into it again.
And do you think that when you grow up a little bit, do you think that's like rationale and like conditioning from like society potentially and like other people's opinions that make you shut it off?
I think it's partly that, but I think it's our logical kind of brain, our mathematical brain, the side of our education that shuts that creative side of our brain down. But, loads of studies have been done, and it basically, if you speak to any psychic or medium, they would say that we all have the ability, literally everyone has the ability.
Wow.
And, I've been through kind of trainings, like mediumship trainings, and done certificates in it because I wanted to make sure that people felt safe with me and that I'd gone through a proper protocol. I wasn't some lady who turned up at a fair in a flowy dress and kind of went, oh,
this person's talking to me.
Some tall, dark, handsome man. So, and that is, we all think. But I remember studying with a famous medium who's been on the television, gone through working with the police on cases to try and find people and things like that and know whether someone's actually alive or dead because he's a medium. We just have that open ability to be able to connect, see things, and we're not scared of it. I think, there's a lot of it that is, what happens if, I connect with someone bad or, things like that. But it's the protocols of protecting yourself and knowing that you're only asking for anything for someone's highest good.
Yeah, like we spoke about, yeah.
Yeah. And that is the whole thing. And it's protecting yourself and knowing how to work with spirit. And that is the difference. It's educating yourself. It's like learning a new skill. You want to know exactly how to kind of work with it. And I think that for me was kind of important that and also actually back to energy and Reiki energy, if you're in a high energy, you're going to attract in good kind of spirits and that side of things. It's only if you're in a very negative space that you might be messing with something else.
Yeah.
But that's very, very rare. But I would say also, I'll probably define the differences as well because, like I was saying to you the other day, I had a client who kind of wanted to know what was happening in the next few weeks to her. And I was just like, well, and this is something I didn't know either, that there is a psychic who will say to you, I can tell you what's going to happen in the next, 6 months, year or whatever. They might be quite vague, but they'll kind of might say you're going to have a job change or you're going to move house or whatever. That's a psychic. And that's not what I'm good at. I think I also shut that on that side because it's not of interest to me.
Yeah. And that's
so
a
it's
personal
kind of
thing, which is
that's a personal.
Everyone has it, but you can tap into.
Yeah, and it's also your intuition, which you can tap into. Your intuition is like is something it's kind of telling you what direction to go in, so you can tap into that intuition yourself personally. But I am a spiritual medium, and that's where I connect with spirit and people who have passed, basically. So, and that's where the kind of there's a difference there to being a psychic, where we're looking at
the future.
Yeah. Mine is far more
present.
Yeah,
in the moment.
Yeah, connecting in with a loved one, connecting in with your spirit guides, and kind of going into more kind of spiritual depth.
Yeah,
I think that's
perfect way.
That's kind of. I hopefully that kind of makes it a bit clearer.
It well.
But to be honest, I never knew that. I was just, when I started seeing people and things started coming through, I was just like, well, is that a psychic then?
Yeah, what's going on?
And then someone said to me, no. And
you're
this
just
is
connecting with the spirit.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between a spirit guide and then like obviously people's loved ones who have passed on?
So we basically have a team of kind of spirits who look after us from the day. So let's take it back to the day we arrive kind of thing, or a few months before that, we, in theory, or that's what we think we've learnt so far,
Okay.
sign an agreement that's kind of basically us saying, we're going to land on Earth.
This is my life.
This is my life. This is what I'm signing up for. This is my exit date. I may be
But why does that freak people out?
Yeah.
It's so
but it's
weird.
not. It's life, isn't it?
But then the second you said that, I just went,
Oh, God,
exit date.
yeah.
But I think that probably comes from more of a grief-coded brain of mine.
Yeah. And also, sometimes we have an exit date and we're taking one for the team. And we'll come into that in kind of
because we've spoken a lot about this with Matt.
Yeah. And I think we could use that, if you're okay, as an example of exiting earlier than maybe we think. You know, we all have an end date that we think we're going to be 80-something. But that's not necessarily why we came to Earth. And we have to think that we're put on Earth with a group of people that actually we're just one cog in that set of people. And we're all there. We never meet anyone by accident. Like you and I didn't meet by accident. There was a purpose to us meeting. And we kind of met through your mum. And then I met your mum through something totally different. So, you know, there are all these coincidences that happen that kind of bring us, they're meant to happen, and they're meant to carve the path that we're meant to go on.
Yeah.
And, you know, and someone may come into our life and then they may exit. But we shouldn't be sad about them kind of exiting.
Some people are lessons, some people are there to stay.
Yeah.
Some people are there for love, some people are there for...
Yeah, they're all different reasons why they've been brought in. Yeah. And if they exit, it's a bit like one of your friends, you know, you don't see them for a long time. You just drift apart. But they were there for a certain period.
For that reason.
Yeah, for that reason. They brought something to the table for you. And then you did for them. And then you've kind of exited out. And someone new is coming in. You've made space for someone new who has a new lesson and something new to kind of bring to the table. So
I think when you look at like Matt, for example, I think like when that was first brought to me, like mum saying it, which she probably got from you potentially, of like he had his time here and she'd done her research and all into spirituality because she needed closure almost, like, which makes sense. I remember when she first said it to me, I was too angry and I was like, I don't agree with that. Like this whole, he's done his job here and has achieved what he was here for. I was like, well, that just sucks because I want him here for my life. And like, that's unfair and all these feelings I was having. But weirdly, actually now in the space that I'm in, I still feel all of that. Like I'm sad, I'm angry. It's not nice, but because of who he was to me.
Yeah.
But thinking of who I was to him and him when he left, knowing that was his job done, and it almost now brings a sense of peace and completion and positivity so weirdly, and this might sound bonkers, but almost like he's at peace because he knows he's achieved what he needed to. He left us all in pain, but for a reason, and there will be a reason for that in our futures. And I feel like like it's nice to know that almost he left complete. Looking at it in that way. For me, I look at him like, okay, he was done. He had achieved everything here. He'd imparted all the love he could. And it was his time.
Okay. I will.
Okay.
So here.
Go,
I'll unpack a bit of it.
Go.
So I would say the way you say he is left.
Well,
So I would
he's
say
just physically.
He is physically left. His packaging has left, but his spirit and his energy hasn't. And we've talked about this, the way he is with you on your journey. So he's with us
here today.
Yeah, today.
Oh, where is he?
And kind of like circling above us. But he hasn't finished his job.
No.
He's just working through differently and through people. So even though we don't physically have him here, that doesn't mean his kind of job's
done.
done.
I get that. So his physical job was
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. But what he has done as well, and he continues to do, is, if you think, and if it's painful, just stop me. Please stop me, because
Okay.
I don't want to cause you any pain at all. But just think that 13-year-old you,
Yeah.
and kind of going forward, if he was still here today, your life would look very different
Yeah.
to the one it is. You and I wouldn't be sat here having this conversation. So everything that's happened afterwards has sent you on a totally different path, and a path that has gone out to help others. Like, and as in your mother as well, doing all these retreats and things like that. Would she have done that?
No.
Not likely. She would have, been very happy in kind of her family bubble, going off traveling, all of those. But suddenly there's a need to go out and help others and spread the word and heal others.
Yeah.
So you're both on a different journey. Well, all of you are, but for you and your mom, you're very on a different journey of making people aware of this, the healing that can be out there.
And making sense of, I guess, grief. And
yeah.
Like, in society, I think a massive reason why I wanted to do this podcast is death and grief is so almost like shunned in society, because I don't think people give it enough time. I think everyone's scared of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, that makes sense because it's painful.
Yeah.
We will never take that away, that it's painful. However you look at it and rationalize it with what we're talking about, the pain will always be there.
Yeah.
But because it's so shunned and not spoken about and taboo and, locked off, there's less time and less space for people to think like this.
Yeah.
And it's less common to do so because the topic we're talking about is so painful almost.
Yeah.
So this is, why to just share more that it's okay to actually weirdly rationalize things like this.
But for me, I see that what he's managed to achieve through you and your mum is huge. It's absolutely huge. Think about all the lives that you're touching at the moment. Think about all the lives your mum's touching. And then that vibrates out because someone else might talk to someone else and say, by the way, listen to that podcast. You might have a different take on how you're feeling or something like that.
Yeah.
But this podcast wouldn't exist if he hadn't gone. Do you know what I mean?
But I always say this, like, my life would be so different.
Yeah.
But then I always say, obviously, I'd rather Matt here.
Yeah.
In my personal journey. But my life, I could be a completely different person.
Yeah.
And look at life, I could be a horrible person because this thing has shaped me, I think, to be more empathetic, more mindful, more aware because of what I've gone through. I hope I wouldn't be a horrible person. Anyway, but as in,
but you would be a different person
because I've grown up in a different way.
Yeah.
With a different journey. And it's so, so true. And when you look at it that way, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I want to get into a bit more of the medium aspect, because you and I could sit here and talk about grief for hours and not be able to stop. And we do. To be quite honestly, I'm just going to say, my first Reiki session with Jenny, I went for a 7 o'clock appointment in the evening. I didn't leave till 10:30, and then when I was leaving, Jenny was like, "Have you had dinner?" I was like, "No." She was like, "I'm so sorry," and I was like, "Me? Don't say sorry. Like, we were just chatting away." But it's nice, and you don't have that a lot. So I think when you do, take it. But I think I'm trying to think of also what people I have asked as well, and we'll get to those questions. But I'm trying to think of what I would want to know and what maybe the general consensus is. How do you? This is a practical question, I guess. How do you receive messages from spirits, and how do you translate them? Because we've spoken about how there's different ways. Talk about that a little bit.
Spirit will come in, or your loved ones will come in really different ways, and that depends on the medium that you see and what their skills. So for me, my kind of way of learning and what kind of how I learned at school was very visual. I'm a visual person. I see something and I figure it out. So I see things in picture form. So I get a lot kind of pictures coming through, and and then it's like a puzzle. I'm trying to think. It's like I have to become a detective. I'm thinking, what are they trying to get through to me?
Yeah, what are you trying to say?
What are you trying to say? And they're obviously thinking, okay, send her more, or
more info needed,
more
please.
info and things like that. But also, then I go on to write, and we were talking about it. I have a favorite pad and a nice pen which I connect with, and I will just download. So I will start writing. I don't even know what I'm writing. So I have to go back. So when I read it back to you, it's like I'm reading it for the first time. And I'm kind of sitting there looking at it going, God, I have no clue I wrote that.
Yeah. So is this visual?
Yeah.
When you write it down, that's not like a voice.
It must be a voice.
But in a way, I don't
hear. Okay. I don't hear it. Some people hear things, and they will go, so and so is saying this at the moment. I don't feel like I hear that. I have to write it down. But that's, I think, part, and we were talking about this, my insecurity, that I don't want to get in the way of someone down kind of coming in. I don't want to suddenly say, oh, they're probably really trying to say that, so I'll put that down.
You want to transfer the clearest message.
Yeah. So for me, all I do is go into this funny zone that I don't even kind of realise. And all I'm doing the whole way along is trying to write as fast as I can and not miss a word that is being kind of downloaded to me. But whereas other people, if they're very much more kind of wordy and kind of audible is their way, they will hear something. Some people will smell something because that's their strongest sense. So they very much communicate through your strongest senses, or that's how we pick it up. So for me, it's always visual followed by I will download, because I think I always got frustrated by, okay, you're sending me a picture, but what's this made me? And sometimes I get the bizarrest pictures as well. And then I start questioning it, going, well, why have I got a horse's head? What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
So I have to have faith that what I'm seeing, I need to say to you. And then you might go, oh yeah, you know what? I was looking at this grey horse the other day. That totally makes sense. Yeah. And I'm thinking, thank God for that. Thank God she doesn't think I'm I'm kooky because I can communicate. But, you see the bizarrest things coming through.
But then it makes sense once you speak to that person and once you write it down.
They know.
It all connects. Because it's about that person. As you always say to me, you're almost like the middleman. You're like, what's it called?
So I'm kind of the conduit. So I always say old fashioned, and you may not remember this, but as a child, my brother and I we'd have kind of two paper cups.
Oh, yeah.
And we put the string in between and pretend we were talking to each other between. I'm the string.
You're the string.
Yeah. And that's all I am. I'm just like the messenger.
Yeah.
And
so when you say, when you say like Matt's, just thinking to like the visual, when you say like Matt's here.
Yeah.
Is that a visual or is that an energy you feel?
No. So I can feel I can see the visual of him. And you know how I said that he's coming in a much kind of larger, big, and I'm getting his face at the moment.
He was on the train?
Yeah. He was on the train on the way up here. Yeah. But that's
so that's all visual.
But then I can feel energy as well. So I kind of get the visual first and then the energy. And I think it's like him saying, I'm here,
and
you might be, and just confirming it.
Just as a little side note, do you think your Reiki comes into that with energy? Or are they quite separate?
Yeah, I think it probably does actually, because I feel people's energy.
Because when I have Reiki, and I'm sure you have it with other clients, like you have presence in there as well, spirit presence, and like that's come in for me before. Yeah. And like another thing, I think when people like with psychic or like mediums, everyone's like trying to like catch you out almost. Sometimes they think when you sit and like, and also I think movies represent this world in a different, in my opinion, probably quite a negative way, and then that's what makes a lot of people skeptical or whatever. But I remember like when we had Reiki, you were like, oh, so a man came in, and like you would not know this about me, like you would not know that my mum's dad died when he was like 58, and you said to me like, someone else, and I thought Matt was going to come in. He did come in, but then there was this other man who came in first, and he was just like really calm, but just like there. Yeah. And then Matt came bolding in. Yeah. Like, I'm here too. And I was like, but you were like, he's a bit younger, and like, how does and I was like, oh my God, that'll be my mum's dad. And you were like, oh, did he die a bit young?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And then I like,
Yeah.
it all fits together. And I think my mum's had that a lot where like people will tell things to her that she has not told anyone.
Yeah.
Or something my mum's mum has told her that no one else would know.
Yeah.
Especially not someone that my mum's only met once before. Like, that's where I think
and
people can allow it to make sense almost.
And I think, you know, I've had a lady before, and I won't go into any detail or anything on it, but she rang me and said, oh, I've got your number from someone. I was like, okay. And it turned out that I didn't know the lady at all. I think by mistake, she's got the number. And she was like, no, my friend's been to you. I was thinking, no, she hasn't been to me at all. But I was just like, I think this might be a mistake. And she said, oh, well, anyway, could I, you know, could I have a chat with you? And I was just like, absolutely. And she said, I've got to be really honest. I actually don't believe. And I said, okay. Do you really want to go through with this? And she said, there's just something making me do it, but I have to say to you, I don't. And I was like, okay,
fair enough.
You
Honesty.
know, totally fair enough. And she basically wasn't telling me anything at all. So she didn't want to tell me who it was or anything. And I was like, that's fine. You're going to test me on this one. And I get that. And you do
get that a lot?
I get that quite often, and then I feel like I'm going into a blind test kind of thing. You suddenly feel like, oh my God, you know,
oh my God, okay, come on.
I hope the right person. And I explained, as I do to everyone, that the person you want to come in isn't always necessarily the person that will come in. It's what is right for you at that moment in time. It's the message that the spirit world needs to get to you. And that might be your loved one, but it might not be.
Yeah.
So I always have to prepare people. And anyway, you know, it was a husband, and I kind of came through, and I gave her, he kept giving me, he was so precise, and I've probably never had that again in such detail. He started showing me things that I could never know, like things in the kitchen.
And also, as you said,
drawers.
they don't make sense to you.
No, and I was
when
thinking,
you tell it to her, it's like a circle moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's connected.
And
now.
literally, I described something, a room in their house, and I was just like, I just don't know what he's trying to tell me here, you know. And I described even down to the window trim. And I was just like, I don't usually get this detail. And you know, and it was all precise. And she said, could I turn my camera around? And she turned it around and she said, this is exactly what you've just described. And she said, so what's he trying to tell us? And I was just like, well, usually I never get this kind of detail. But I said, I know exactly what he's trying to tell us. And it is, he's trying to prove to you that he exists. And what he's going to tell you now, you need to believe. Because all he's trying to do is put into your mind that there's no way. I've never been to your house. I don't even know where you live.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing this on Zoom.
Yeah. Never met before.
But what he's trying to tell you is to believe. And by showing you all these different pictures,
giving
things
so many details to be like,
you know, how can I know where this chest of drawers is? How can I know that the top drawer is empty? How can I describe this room and even down to, you know, the fact that your window has got black trim? And I wouldn't, you know, that was a really kind of extraordinary one.
Yeah. But she was so
specific.
hesitant that maybe that's why the detail was
I think,
needed.
And that's why. And she was just like sat there and she goes, what's he now going to say? And I was just like, and that was the turning point. And, you know, and what he came through with was absolutely beautiful, and it's what she needed. And he obviously knew that, and he needed to give her that boost. But he also knew that he needed to prove something to her first.
Yeah.
So we kind of went through this. So I was like literally sitting as a conduit, kind of just going, okay, well, this is, and all the pieces come together.
But that's nice. Like, I think you can view that positively.
Yeah.
That lady can. And like, just allow yourself to just feel that connection. Like,
but that was the whole thing. The connection in itself brought peace. It brought peace that actually she knew that he was walking the path with her, but actually that she was still parenting with him, you know, and that was a really special kind of stage because
and special for you because this is another like a question I have, sort of like tangenting off from like that literal sentence. Like, do you ever find that you get emotionally affected by being a medium? Through the messages you get for people, or through the emotion, we talked about this earlier, through the emotion they physically pass through you? And then I'm also going to tangent that off to another question in a minute of like how it affects your life, because I think that will be something people are interested in, of like, how do you control this gift? Like, we've got this funny one with like my mum and Matt popping into your Waitrose. It's just like, leave me alone, I'm doing my future. But we'll get into that. But do you feel like, it ever emotionally affects you? Or do you feel like you have gotten like a process now where you sort of switch your personal self off and allow yourself to just be?
But that took a bit of, that took a bit of learning. Yeah, definitely. Because when it all started coming in, and it kind of came in quite fast, I was kind of driving along and things would come in, and I'd be just like,
I can't have this, I'm driving.
I'm driving and I'm trying to get home, or I'm on the school run. What, please.
Wow, really?
But at first I was kind of scared that if I turned it off, I wouldn't find it again. So there was that balance, but then there was this kind of sudden, actually, you know what? I'm trying to do my shopping, or I'm trying to go to sleep here. Just
that's another one. Going to sleep. I think a lot of people be like, is there an on and off switch? Is there a, what sort of level of control do you have over it so it doesn't govern your life?
Now, I do have total. In probably the first year, I was like, chaos. I felt like my head was kind of spinning quite a lot with lots of things and visuals and things like that. And I did kind of think, you know what, at first it was like, oh, okay, this is a bit weird. Then it was like, this is quite cool. Okay, now this is getting too much. And you go through these stages of kind of thinking, I need to switch off. And quite often I will find that if I'm seeing someone on my dog walk in the morning, someone will come in and I'll be like, oh, okay, you're coming in. But also when I write in my diary, because I write a paper, I like paper, and I write in my diary that I've got an appointment to see someone, they quite often will come in. It's like them acknowledging, oh, it's like the door's opened now. And then I will just put them back in their box and kind of say, not yet, it's 2 weeks' time, or whatever. Come back then. And then I will tend to call them in the night before, because I find as I'm going to sleep, and we spoke about this, I have a pad by my bed, that I start seeing visuals, and I get much clearer visuals the night before, as I'm just kind of, the day is kind of, I put the day away, like kind of my normal day. And then I just have a few minutes of quiet, and those feelings and pictures, I will then write down, because they kind of come in. It's like seeing, kind of sitting in a cinema and you seeing things unfold and you start feeling emotions. And then I will kind of put those down. She's just going to. Yeah. So I will kind of just need to kind of home in on those emotions and try and say, what are they showing?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like in the heart, the love that's coming through. You can feel it. And then sometimes if I don't know the person that they're trying to connect to, it's just like, right, I've got a lady here, but is that a mother? Is that an aunt?
Figuring it out.
Yeah, it's figuring it out.
What is
the relationship? Actually, there's no love there, but they're there. So is that actually a friend, or something like that? So it's kind of trying to piece together a puzzle and trying to make sure that you're getting across
the right message. Which at first must have been like quite overwhelming.
Yeah,
it was. It was cool.
It was kind of
scary, cool, and then and then control.
Yeah,
and so that's another thing. So you spoke about like almost like when you write in your book and you sort of call them in, the door's open. Do the spirits come to you unwanted as well as you calling them in? Is it sort of both, or if now you got more? They'll come in maybe and you'll just go,
yeah. Now I know I've got control.
It's like, not today. And you can also call them in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can call them in. And what I would generally do is I won't try and control it. I won't if someone says I want to connect to my brother, I won't kind of go, I need to connect to so-and-so. I will say, whoever would like to come in for Frankie's highest good, and her kind of her loved ones who want to come in for her highest good, please step forward. And
Do
then
you say that out loud or think it?
in my head, I
Okay.
kind of say it. And then it's who comes forward. So I'm giving them the choice and respect to kind of say who actually needs to come forward at this time. I'm not trying to force it, and I couldn't anyway because they're much stronger than I am.
Yeah.
Kind of. So
Wow, yeah.
it's kind of who's there for your highest good at that particular moment,
And what message is needed.
Yeah, is needed.
Because what I think I might need, because I could go to you, this is another thing. I could go to you and go, could you ask Matt this for me? Or could you ask my granddad this for me? And it's like, yeah, I can. But
but
your grandma might step forward instead, actually, and go, no, you actually don't need that from granddad. You need this from me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's always for your highest good at that moment.
Yeah, they're telling you what you need.
And what you think you need isn't necessarily in the plan of the universe. So, and that's where, and actually, if you think you need a certain answer to a problem or something, but that's going to take you off at a tangent that they don't want you to go off
negative
to,
one, maybe.
or the wrong path at that specific time,
then
you're not going to get that. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're almost like stopping you from allowing yourself to make a decision that will be wrong for you.
Yeah. And that's where we were talking about kind of, the whole psychic side. If someone tells you something, are you then going to push yourself in that direction?
100%. I think
it's like, oh, I'm going to meet someone tall, dark and handsome in 2 months' time. And you're literally like in a bar just kind of going, but actually
you've got
it was
hair,
someone
it's not you,
blonde who's standing in front of you and it was a month's time and you just kind of walk straight past them.
Yeah, and then maybe there's potential there that you are looking too much at the things that have been told to you that you actually start missing.
Yeah, the things that are right in front of you and the opportunities that are in front of you. But whereas when you're a medium side is more to do, for me, it's more to do with that connection. It's more to do with that reassurance that that person is still there
just in a different form.
In a different form. And a lot of the time they are walking right next to you. But we're all so busy in the life we lead now that we don't have quiet time. And we don't kind of realise that actually we can feel that they'll quite often do things to try and, get our attention and kind of say, I know. Here. You might be missing me, but I'm right next to you.
Yeah. And as you say, we all have it. I definitely, not obviously to your extent, but I definitely feel Matt with me. I can't describe it. I literally can't put it into words. But I see all the signs all the time, and I feel him like I have this thing when I get on a plane. Yeah, I like just feel him almost like grabbing the plane.
Yeah,
and like I just feel him like he's really big.
Yeah,
and he's like he's like carrying the plane almost.
I see him as a really big character.
Tigger
character. Yeah, and he used to be so energetic.
Which
as well.
This is actually something I think you should share because it's so like heartwarming and like wonderful how like you describe it that when you first connected with Matt or Matt first connected with you, he was so beyond excited that he found a way through.
Yeah.
And explain what like that was like. Apparently he was just like
he was just like so much energy. It was like
you're like, whoa, Matt.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But actually, and I don't know whether your mum ever shared with it, but he managed it, and spirits can do this. If they have a lot of energy, they can physically move things in our world. So they can turn on a light or turn off a light, or they can move an object. So
this is where people get spooked out. Yeah. And I think they that one I actually shouldn't
because all they're trying to do is just say, I'm here. You're thinking about them or you're discussing them and they're trying to move something, kind of going, hey, I'm here.
And people are like, how is this moving? And it's like, because stuff does happen sometimes where you're like, there is absolutely no way that door is shut from the wind because no windows are open.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And I just think it can be scary, and I can obviously see that. Like if you're home alone, it's not exactly like the nicest thing.
Yeah.
But if you can try and look at it of just like with the positivity side of like, oh, but I'm just trying to say hi.
Yeah, exactly. And they are, when you're at your lowest point, they're trying to give you a hug. I mean, people have said, I've woken up and I thought someone was embracing me.
Oh my God.
And
so they must be quite close to that they're very spiritual. Who come to you with that sort of
but it's
open.
It's just the one thing that underlying message that every time comes back whenever I do a reading is that they just want you to be happy. They may have left this world in a physical presence, but they are still there in energy. And what they want you to do is keep going. They want you to be happy. And what I quite often get through, and I'll try and describe it, but I'm not that great at that kind of. I should have been really good at English, but I wasn't. Was that they give me this energy. Think of yourself at 7 years old on Christmas Eve, and you are bubbling with excitement. Can you think about that kind of in your chest? It's like I always think like cola bubbles when they're kind of coming to the surface, and you're so excited. They give me that as a, come on now, we want you to be, we want you to get excited about life again. We want you to be happy. Because they can feel your energy and they don't want you to be grieving. They want you to get on. And that is the thing that comes through over and over again, is basically that they will quite often kind of, when people are in a situation where they kind of go, you know what, I don't, I'm not enjoying my job at the moment, or this kind of thing. And they come through and they start chatting about it while we're sitting talking. They will come through and kind of go, they will give me the bubbles and kind of go, bubbles, and they will also kind of give me that feeling of peace. They always want people to find peace in their life, and those are the two things: the happiness and the peace and the joy. And those are three things actually. It comes through each time. It's just like, this is what we need you to find. We don't want you to be grieving. We want you to be happy. You don't need to forget us, but we are walking the path with you. So you don't kind of be sad that you've lost us, because actually we're there.
We're still here, just in a different way.
Yeah.
And I guess a question as well is, these are all quite like positive feelings. And I'm curious, do you ever get any negative feelings? I did ask on my Instagram some questions, and someone did ask, how do you deal with like sad news for any of your clients, or like negative? And I wonder, do you get anything
not
negative?
Really, actually.
Would you ever encounter a negative loved one?
I have occasionally,
if they had a bad relationships,
where something has ended badly and they've exited themselves rather than kind of through another form. Their spirit is unresolved, so sometimes they need to come back and say, sorry for the pain that I've caused you. And then you see when the other person goes, no, I just feel awful that, I didn't see a sign or something like that. And you've got two sides having kind of, you feel then you're really in the middle, because you've got two sets of emotions coming from the two different sides. But when it's resolved, you just feel the spirit of that person just kind of lift. It's so just like they've kind of, they've been stuck because they couldn't find a way to communicate. Well, even when they've passed, that they couldn't say, I'm sorry that I've caused you pain by my passing, but I couldn't stay here any longer. But they kind of need to be released, and someone to say, it's fine, I get that you couldn't stay here any longer. I get that the world was too much for you. And then they're at peace. And then there's this just lovely lifting of spirit where it just kind of goes, thank you, and then you can kind of feel them moving on.
Yeah.
But sometimes we kind of, resolving together. They know that they've been forgiven. And I think the person who's lost that person knows that they have now been released somewhere where they can find peace. And that's really important.
Maybe they need that for themselves as well, to just be like, I need to forgive so I can find peace.
Yeah. But I never get anything dark.
I think that's actually my question. How you never get anything dark. Have you ever? If you do, can you control it and tell them to leave? Because obviously there are bad people in this world.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess my question is, when they pass, do they resolve when they pass and leave the bad behind? So are all spirits then more positively coded, or are they negative even in passing.
So
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that a bit confusing?
I think I listened to an amazing medium, a very famous American medium, who described it once and kind of said that, we are basically in Earth school. That's why we're here. We're here to learn. We kind of, with our soul contract, we're here to learn certain things. But the problem is, once we're born, we forget what we're here to learn. So we can probably gather it sometimes when the same kind of thing happens to us over and over again. And it's like, it's like the universe saying, come on now, like this time we're giving you the test again. Now pass it, make a different decision, make a better decision and learn your lesson. So, if someone is evil, and I suppose evil's a bit of a kind of odd word, isn't it?
No, I get what you mean.
They've done something bad on
hurt somebody else,
and hurt someone else,
or have had a negative impact on someone else's life,
or have
and a big one. I mean, like murder or
then
something like that.
When they're taken away, and they leave this earth, then they will go back to school basically and be kind of reschooled to come back again to do things kind of in a better. You didn't get it right that time.
So do they not enter that plane? Where the spirits
you
that you
would
connect
say
with are?
Most people. This is always a really hard one, but heaven and hell, it's most mediums would say that doesn't exist. It's kind of a normal plane, but it's where you go to, whether you're going straight back to school again or, to do things in a better way. And then you're kind of assessed when you kind of leave. And it's just like, well, you didn't do a good job this time. We're either going to give you kind of someone that you're going to live through now and make sure that they make the better choices, or we're going to send you back again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because I think if, as you say, we all have this gift and we can all connect with it, I think a big thing for people would be that don't connect with it, don't want to, is probably that aspect of like the movie side and the horror movie side of what we see. Is like, well, what if a bad spirit connects with me and tries to tell me to do something or pass a negative message on to other people, but you've never had that experience. Yours has always been...
Mine's always been positive,
happy, joy, love.
But I think also that
Is that partially under your control?
I think it's a lot to do with the energy that you're in. It's the energy you attract.
Very Reiki.
Yeah, see, it's back to that again. If you're in a good space and you're living at a high vibration, you tend to attract that in.
Okay, so you're attracting positive spirits and loved ones always because you're living in a high vibration.
Yeah, and I only ever ask, and this is something for me that's really important. If someone comes to see me for Reiki or mediumship, I only ever want to see someone that I can help in some way, that I can connect to in some way. And I always say, don't send me someone that I can't help. So like we were talking earlier about this lady who came to me for Reiki, but there was just this gut feeling in me that she shouldn't see me for Reiki, that she actually needed to go for reflexology. So I gave her the number of a lady which I really trust for reflexology.
And that's so honest of you to do that and give up that session and give her to someone else, because that's where she's going to be safest and where she's going to get what she needs.
Yeah. And it's the same if I don't feel that I'm going to connect necessarily to the person that they're looking to connect to, or I have a feeling that it's not right. I would say to them, I actually don't think I'm the right person. I think you may have come to me by mistake. You need to go to someone else. But I think you naturally find, I think when you go to see a medium or even a psychic, if you need that, you need to really think about that connected energy. Like when I've gone to a psychic, I remember going to one that someone recommended. She said, oh God, she's just brilliant. She's just so good. I literally connected with her and just went, oh no, you are not good energy for me. And it was really interesting. I absolutely repelled against her energy. And I was just like, no, I don't even want you to do this reading. I was really stuck because I was trying to be polite.
Yeah,
and
but then
kind
you're
of
like, I
going,
need to get out of here.
I need
and that might
to
not
get,
be her as a, she might not be a negative person, but
she didn't
your
match
energies
my
are clashing.
energy. And I felt, for me, she was a very negative energy coming into my space. And I suppose because I work with energy,
You're so connected to it.
I connect to that, and I'm immediately like, oh, I don't like that energy.
I'm aware.
And it's funny, even in healing, there can be that kind of repel where you're kind of thinking, well, you are a healer, or you are a medium.
Yeah.
You should, in theory, you should be sitting at a high energy. But there's something that just makes you think, no, you know what, you're not good for me. So I'm always very much go with your gut instinct.
Always. And I think that is what energy that you're describing is almost like everyone else's who hasn't connected with it yet. It's almost like your gut feeling.
Yeah.
Trust it. When you walk into a room and you dodge a certain person, it's because you can feel that repel of like, no, your energy's bad.
Yeah.
And then when you gravitate to certain people in a room, it's because you're like, oh.
Yeah.
But you do it so subconsciously and you're not aware of it in everyday life.
No.
But that is your energy. And your energy connections that you're making in a day-to-day just like life and going about life, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, these are things we don't sit and think about.
Yeah, we don't necessarily think along the lines that everything is energy. So therefore, and once we do, we kind of view things in a different way.
Exactly. Okay. I have a question. Well, I did ask because I feel like I've actually covered naturally a lot of the ones that were asked. But I do have one. And I think it's from someone who's just said, like, how can I connect with a loved one?
I think when people come to see a medium, I think they want that connection, and that connection brings them just happiness and peace. And I think that's really important. But I think it also brings them kind of in a physical way, it makes them realize that we are energy and that their loved ones are still there and that they can connect with them. And I think that brings a lot of peace to know that actually your loved ones are walking with you and that they are around you and they may be trying to kind of communicate with you, but we're all so busy that we don't allow it. So I think that's a frustration from their side, is them wanting to kind of say, be happy. I'm here. I am going to go and see that, that special occasion with you. I'll be there with you.
I know, don't. That's like my wedding for me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. But, have that faith that that person will be there with you through it.
Yeah.
All your loved ones that have departed, But I think, how can I connect? It's basically quietening the mind. It's having that time where your mind kind of, you empty everything out and you just feel. I think that's really
allow
important.
The open.
Yeah.
Just be open. Yeah. Just like allow whatever feelings, colours, like vibes, energy that come to you, allow them to just come.
And loved ones will come to you in a really vivid dream. That is something.
God, I've had that before.
So where you think the dream is real and you're kind of questioning it in the morning, that is
a visit.
A visit quite often.
See, I love that. That gets me excited. That doesn't freak me out.
No,
because I think I've got that now. I've connected.
Because you're now open to the whole thing. And that is the difference. You're not scared of it. You want it. So therefore, you're allowing it to come in. You're kind of saying to Matt, do come be part of my life. I want you to be part of my life.
You've got to be here.
They will be really respectful. And if they feel that you're not wanting it or you're not accepting it or you can't accept it in a way, they won't come in.
Okay. That's also nice to know.
It's like opening the door and kind of saying, hey, come on in, come and have a cup of tea.
Yeah, I like it.
So they will do things like, as you're going to sleep, sometimes you'll see visions. And that is a point where your brain's kind of at a susceptible stage that it can come in. Yeah. But they will also do things like, you can be watching the telly and you think, God, I feel like spiders are kind of going over the top of my head. That is another feeling that you can feel. Or
and
just that
signs
knowing.
as well.
Yeah.
Because what was it I said to you earlier? So like another question is like, I've got here is, can my loved one like hear me when I talk to them?
Yeah.
And
very
we
much
spoke about this earlier. So yes, they
Yeah.
can. But
Yeah.
also I said, like, I'll ask Matt for signs. And you said to me, well, ask him for specific signs. Because then you'll truly know whether he's coming through. So like number plates are always a big one that we spoke about this morning. Or rainbows are a big one for a lot of people. Whatever it is. And like
robins.
Yeah,
people
feathers
often say,
hence
feathers.
The lost and found logo.
Yeah. But but there are signs, but you need to kind of ask for a sign, because otherwise you don't know. They could be sending you a sign and you're kind of going, oh, no sign.
But sometimes you don't physically need to speaking ask for it, because when I was younger, I probably saw more signs.
Yeah.
But I was open. I think I subconsciously didn't even realise that I was open to this whole world.
Yeah.
But because I was young and I craved connection.
Yeah.
I would see feathers and butterflies in honestly the most bizarre times.
Yeah.
And hadn't realised maybe that I was craving that. Or maybe I was subconsciously calling for that. Like, please just like tell me you're okay and whatever. And I've had that in dreams where like Matt's almost confirmed to me that he's okay.
Yeah.
And they're very odd dreams, which I won't share because
no,
very
personal.
But
like
it I think it's just, as you say, just being open, and they can hear you.
Yeah.
Which is so nice.
I know.
I talk to Matt all the time. People think I'm loony.
And that but that is the thing. It is talk to them, because they want to be part of your life.
And my friends start talking to them now, Jenny. It's hilarious.
But but that's fine. And you're
because excuse me, where's the sunshine?
Yeah.
And then the sun will shine. And it's like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
That's my sign.
I mean,
Good
in a
weather.
nice way. I, walk the dog and talk to my grandmother quite often. And
I
just tell her
always
what's
talk to
going
Matt.
on. And, and some guidance and things like that. And so I just, I think it's really important to acknowledge that they are there. We are all energy, after all.
We're all energy, their energy, we're energy.
Yeah.
And I really I think we've touched on so much, but I think touching on the fact that you've only had a positive experience because almost you only allow that, but also how you've explained that, I think will help a lot of people understand this world a little bit more.
Yeah, it's not quite as woo-woo as,
and scary as some movies.
Yeah.
Portray.
But it's also, some people are open to it and some people aren't. And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Some people, it brings them a lot of comfort. And they, And that's good. You want to find what brings you comfort throughout this.
Exactly. And I think at the end of the day in this life, like, if something brings, like we keep saying it, if something brings you comfort, why deny it? Just allow it, and like,
as long as it's not harming anyone else.
Exactly that. You're not forcing it on anyone else. Like, this is such a gentle, like, you're so gentle with it as well. Like, you sort of share it less openly on like getting people. You very much do it on a word of mouth thing, which I think is so genuine. Just to be like, I'm here, and the people that need me will find me.
Yeah. I'm I am. It goes back to that whole thing of my agreement with the universe is that only anyone that I can help will come to me. And nobody else will. And for me, that's pretty well always worked. I kind of, if someone comes to me for Reiki, it's because they're meant to be. If someone comes to me for mediumship, again, it was just meant to be there. They're meant to be there. And I've learned that the universe kind of deals you what it needs to do you at that point in time, and no amount of manipulation or going against it or trying to maneuver it is going to maneuver it, because it's way stronger than you. So I'm kind of very much go with the flow.
Yeah.
And if it takes you at that point, you suddenly think, you know what, there's something that is drawing me towards going to see someone about this.
Yeah.
Then go with your instinct, because it could well be that there is a message there for you that needs to come out, and they're just trying to point you in the direction of someone that needs to give you that message. They might have been giving you number plates, all sorts of things, but you're not seeing it. So they're kind of thinking, okay, we're going to come in here and just go in with the sledgehammer. We're not going to be subtle anymore.
Jenny, I'm coming in. You've opened the door, so I'm here.
But I think rounding it off, I guess, is that the biggest thing, and we've said this before, that comes through is that your loved ones just want you to be happy and at peace.
It's positive. And they just want you to feel loved.
Yeah. And just want you to enjoy the time that you've got here.
Yeah.
And they don't want you to feel guilty about enjoying that time. They don't want you to suddenly think, God, I laughed and I shouldn't have done. All they want is the very best for you. And that is all that ever comes, that is the underlying message. And if they want to get a strong message through, that is it. Yeah. And it comes through on literally everything. And that's the same for, spirit teams and everything. They just want you to live a high vibration, a life that brings you joy.
Happy, joy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like this world.
Easy.
Yeah. Why would you not want to be in this world? That sounds just like perfect. But yeah, I think this has been a wonderful. I think we've delved into lots of different aspects of it, and I think it will just give people potentially a bit of clarity on different areas of it, a bit more understanding, I hope. And I just think you've described it so well and left it open. I think that's as well where I want to end. It's just just be open to things like this.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to go with it anymore, but just be open. You never know.
Yeah. And you never know.
Joy, happy, peace. Why would you not want that?
Exactly.
Especially when you're grieving. But yeah, I think this has been a wonderful episode and so exciting and informative for me. I feel like I've learned even more again from you. You're just a breadth of knowledge and it's so refreshing and lovely. But yeah, thank you for coming on again. Jenny will probably be here again as well after this. To be honest, there's still so much to unpack from this world. You can't do it in an hour, but
yeah,
it has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me on again.
And I'm sure we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Lost and Found with Frankie. If it's resonated with you, or if you've taken something from this episode, or if you've just sat down and enjoyed it, I'd be so grateful if you could rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hit that follow button, and if you're watching me over on YouTube, please give it a like and subscribe. I really want to reach as many young people and teens who are dealing with grief, as I know firsthand how much hearing conversations like this can help. So if you know someone who could benefit from what we've talked about here today, please give it a share with them too. And come say hello on Instagram and TikTok at Lost and Found with Frankie. So thank you again for being in this space here with me, and I'll see you next time.